Going by just pronouncements from the government and the transport groups, it's an us against them situation with regards to modern and traditional jeepneys. But is it really like this? Or does it have to be like this? Motoring Forum discusses these questions.
The recent strike staged by transport associations representing jeepney drivers and operators showed that there remains a perception of government wanting to eradicate traditional jeepneys. No matter how the Department of Transportation couches its public utility vehicle modernization program, the perception remains. This isn't helped at all by what the DOTR calls modern jeepneys looking more like minibuses, given priority in new or even existing routes and incentives to be acquired by co-ops and incorporated transport operators. It also doesn't help that transport operators and jeepneys, no matter their protestation of support for modernization and safety, continue to harp on the PUVMP being anti-poor and serve only manufacturers and distributors of the misnomered modern jeepneys. In pushing the PUVMP, the DOTR through the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board and in cooperation with the government financial institutions, encourage individual operators of jeepneys to band together and form co-ops to take advantage of incentives and funding to replace their old traditional units with modern jeepneys. However, industry observers see a trend of trades and new entrants to the jeepney transport sector forming co-ops and taking over routes formerly reserved for the traditional jeepneys. There is also a burgeoning clash between the traditional way of jeepney operations, the boundary system, and drivers becoming, in essence, hired hands for co-ops. For decades, the boundary system was practiced by the jeepney sector. Drivers pay the so-called boundary or fee for use of the jeepney and keeping whatever he collects in fare after expenses for fuel. Under the PUVMP, the DOTR encourages drivers to become something like salaried employees for co-ops or transport companies with regular hours and the same benefits as daily workers. The recent transport strike, which only lasted 2 days instead of a week, as threatened, ended with no tangible gains for striking jeepney drivers and operators beyond government extending the deadline from June 30 to December 31, 2023 for them to either join co-ops or so-called existing judicial entities operating modern jeepney services. The DOTR maintains that the jeepney modernization program will continue with essentially the same provisions, but this time the LTFRB expressly approved modern jeepney prototypes to the iconic look of traditional jeepneys and complying with the PNS standards and DOTR requirements manufactured by longtime makers of traditional jeepneys. In an interview with CNN Philippines, LTFRB Technical Division Head Joel Bolano said, "Our iconic jeepney, we did not say that it's not allowed anymore, as long as our iconic jeep can comply with the parameters or requirements of the Philippine national standards issued by the DTI." In a press statement, DOTR also said the PNS also covers the dimensional limits, engine requirements, and safety features that modern public utility vehicles must have. There are no restrictions regarding design or look of the jeepney units, it added. Finally, Transportation Undersecretary Mark Stephen Pastor of the 48 public utility jeepney manufacturers and distributors, only 13 are Filipino, and it will be up to the jeepney cooperative or corporation which one to tap for their modernization needs.
One thing that hasn't really been touched on is, what do commuters think about modern jeepneys as opposed to traditional jeepneys? What would they prefer? That would be a good topic for discussion among government and transport groups, and also future motoring forums. That's our motoring forum this week, courtesy of Suzuki Philippines.